pledge, please.
I've been glad. I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Kramer? Present. Commissioner O'Rourke?
Present.
Commissioner Rexroom?
Present.
Chairman Mussel?
Here.
Commissioner Ross?
Present.
Commissioner Elguyer?
Here.
Commissioner Lautner?
Present.
The first item on the agenda is the approval of our board minutes, and we do have a large stack with a pink sheet on top with all the dates. I would entertain a motion to approve any or all of those.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as listed on this items number 1 through 13 without listing them individually. Is that support?
All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. We have 13 sets of minutes approved. Congratulations to the clerk's office.
Yes, they were real easy to read too.
We do have an agenda we need to approve, and I hope you'll all notice that I do have an agenda in front of me now. And I found it at the bottom of my paper so I can follow the agenda. I have some suggested changes to the agenda, and then we'll open it up to commissioner discussion. If we could, notice we have on 12A, it says Cherryland Electric Agreement Review and Recommendation. Cross off the word recommendation. We'll just have a review. The same for the landowner agreement. We'll just have a review. And under 15, where it says budgetary discussion, that's an action item. So just list that as budget. You can have discussion, but it is an action item. So it's the clerk has suggested we take the word discussion off of that.
15.
And under number 11,
Oh, I'm sorry.
number 11, that should just be Women's Resource Center, not Children's Advocacy Center / Women's Resource Center. So the resolution is just for the Women's Resource Center and the domestic violence prevention. And then under number 17A2, that is in the hands of our attorney, so we will not be acting on that today. And we will be shifting 17C up with item number 1, the inclusive list. They'll be taken together because they're all in that document now.
So 16B through E, there are several items.
16B through E, would you, yes, we have,
So 16B would be regarding staffing level adjustment request on behalf of the interim finance director. 16C would be finance audit committee of the whole meeting to review the 2023 audit
16
findings.
B's and C's on yours.
Oh, we gotta
And
add
these would be added.
All right, add them.
Then would you say it more slowly?
Sure. 16B, we are adding staffing level adjustment request. 16C is finance / audit committee of the whole meeting. 16D is building and grounds meeting. 16E is personnel manual draft rework.
Wow.
and that's a lot to change on our agenda, and we'll make sure the administrator keeps us on track with that when we get to those items. Now, are there any other suggested changes, additions, or deletions? Could I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Motion to approve as amended.
Support.
All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved. We have an agenda. Although, Jim, you should have said motion to approve the the agenda is amended and amended and amended.
Yes, as amended through B, C, D, and E.
At this time, we have public comment, and you're welcome to come and speak to us. Please identify yourself if you will, come to the table. You have 3 minutes for the first public comments, and then we do have a 5-minute public comment session at the end of the meeting. And please address your comments to the entire board. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Mikowski.
Good evening. Going back into history, I think one commissioner will remember this. About 25 years ago, the commissioner that passed away recently, or prior commissioner, did something unusual that has stuck in my mind all these years. She specifically apologized for some bad board actions. It's the first time I've ever heard a public official who is omniscient and omnipotent apologize. Otherwise, it's never heard of. Also, it's my understanding, according to reading a notice today, Mr. Charles Knapp, who used to attend these meetings, has passed away. He's quite a colorful person. I would recommend you read his obituary. Very interesting person. Now, some of our observations in the 70s, we lost a very good form of county government, the County Board of Supervisors. That group of people would have never allowed a government, a county government, to grow to be such a monster as we are. My understanding also is that commissioners, when elected, accept everything that's happened in prior times and are required to fix and amend and repair, correct things that occurred of actions by the past. This commission has a full plate and should only act on matters as spelled out in 46.11. However, it still must deal, it still neglects, this commission neglects to deal with an accounting for this Board of Commissioners and the prior Board of Commissioners actions on May 11th, 2021, which was a clerk-loathing decision. Your fiduciary duty to the taxpayer requires an accounting. Since that day, commissioners have been recklessly wasting hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxpayers' money. On this immoral and political fiasco. Very immoral. We again request that you take such action to prepare an accounting as soon as possible. If not, it appears that you may be unfit for public office and should never be elected again. And I'm serious. Then this Board of Commissioners must evaluate the need, necessity, justification, and benefit of everything that prior commissions have done. If you're looking for work to do and comments, I will leave. I'll repeat some more later. Thank you.
Anybody else would like to make public comment? Bill?
Yeah.
Bill Wiesner, Elmwood Township. And 28th meeting to share just on this one topic, which is everyone wants honest voting, no fraud. You can find out more at tcfamily.org. In fact, you can find the most recent article, which is Dominion is finished. It's 37-page article. It's up online now at tcfamily.org. Please watch that video. It's a minute or an hour and 50 minutes, but it covers all sorts of different vulnerabilities in election equipment. It's got 2.1 million lines of code. This handout's a different one, and we're concerned about Leelanau County. This is where we are. This is our turf. We have to make sure things are done fairly, and no one, even the most honest clerks, can guarantee that those 2.1 million lines of code that nobody can read anyway here probably are doing a fair job. In fact, we have lots of reason and proof to believe it's not. So one person, one ballot, one vote, one day, have cameras too. I know one of the meetings I was here, we talked about the camera in the parking lot. Why do we need cameras? If we don't need cameras for voting, why do we need one in the parking lot? Why does Sheriff Mike need a camera in the sheriff's office? You know, so we need it for voting too. We don't want to trust anybody. We shouldn't have to trust anybody. We need verification, and it's easy to do with a paper ballot. And this handout is just a few new ideas. I'll just touch on this Rasmussen poll. It was April 20th, I believe. This is rewritten on the 21st by Gateway Pundit. Huge Rasmussen poll reveals a majority of Americans, 60%, believe that recent elections were affected by cheating. Just read the highlighted parts. The results of the latest 60%, impacted by cheating, 60%. A majority of voters suspect recent elections have been affected by cheating and believe officials are ignoring the problem. Rasmussen shared these results. 40% say it's important to prevent election cheating. 50% mail-in voting makes it easier to cheat. 48% say cheating affected some 2022 election. 50% say state and election officials are ignoring widespread election fraud. And all on the back it says, and all of these responses are from Democrats. So everybody, uniparty, everybody's united on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Well, thank you to the public for coming this evening, and we'll have a second public comment at the end of the meeting. Are there any commissioner comments? Any communications, proclamations, and presentations? Deb?
Yes, I'd like to present the concept of a certificate of recognition on behalf of the citizens of Leelanau County, the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners, to recognize Eric Carlson for his 25 years of service as a journalist for the Leelanau Enterprise. It is intended that a certificate of recognition would be provided for Mr. Carlson at his upcoming event recognizing his retirement.
It was listed in the enterprise last week. I think it's next week, the 23rd.
24th, I believe.
Okay.
4, 3 to 5 p.m. Thank you very much.
We will send that out.
Time 24th.
Thank you for doing that, Deb. We now are at our consent agenda, and I'd like to just read a statement about the consent agenda, if I may. The purpose of the consent agenda is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one motion without discussion. Any commissioner may ask that any item on the consent agenda be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such request will be automatically respected and will not need a second. So is there anybody that would like to take anything off the consent agenda? Could I have a motion then to approve the consent agenda?
I would move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support. All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0. Thank you. We are now down to a late edition request number 1. Deb, do you want to introduce this?
Well, Andrew is making his way to the table. Who is going to address this on behalf of an opportunity for one of his employees.
Yeah, thank you for taking this late edition. This just came up because Rob Herman had an opportunity to, or has been presented with an opportunity. He's our GIS analyst. He's presented with an opportunity to attend the Esri User Conference in July. It's in San Diego. The Esri UC is pretty much the largest GIS mapping conference that occurs in the United States. I think it's probably the largest conference anywhere. It's 15,000 attendees. There's 200 user presentations, 200 workshops. It's a really good opportunity, sort of a once in a lifetime opportunity to go to that kind of a conference. It's an opportunity to learn and to network and sort of see what new technologies are headed down the pike for us. And Leelanau has always been pretty forward thinking in terms of our mapping capabilities, whether it was moving to using a computer aided design system to do our maps, or then when we upgraded to use GIS in 2011. And now we're kind of still using GIS, but we're presenting a lot of our information using ArcGIS Online, which is a software that's produced by Esri. So I just wanted to come and seek approval for that out of state travel request for Robert.
Andrew, could you speak to the fact that wasn't he given in essence a scholarship to attend this conference?
Correct. Yeah. So we have a rep, an Esri rep, who whenever we have issues, we can go to our rep and say, we're having this issue with the software. They kind of function as like our go-between between ESRI that makes our ArcGIS software and the county, and our rep offered to waive his conference registration. So there's no the conference registration was $2,075, and that fee is being waived. So we would be paying, which there's money in the equalization budget for travel and accommodations and that sort of thing. As a general matter, I budget for that. I didn't specifically budget for this conference. But so we would only be paying for travel, food, and accommodations.
Yes.
And I think that the public should hear too, what the rep said, that he thought Leelanau's GIS webpage is one of the cleanest, most well-presented that he's come across. He said, I think your county could be an example to other similar local governments. So that's quite an honor for Rob.
It is. Yep,
and
absolutely.
for our county and
Yep.
for your department. So good work. And I would move that the Board of Commissioners approve travel for GIS analyst Rob Herman to attend the Esri User Conference, July 10 to 14 in San Diego, California, with funds to come from the Equalization Department's budget 101-475-225-860.
Support.
Any discussion? Linda?
What a terrible time to have to leave northern Michigan.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
I give him credit for
In
going, but
California, oh my gosh,
yeah,
why would you?
yeah.
Well, before we vote on this, I'd like to just commend Rob Herman for all his work with the mapping for our broadband project. He's updated that map so many times, and it's serving a real function, and nice job.
Yep.
to
We
Rob.
call him our magic man.
All those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say. Motion approved, 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We are now down on page 3 of our board packet that we had on Friday, a resolution on the 13th Circuit Court Community Corrections Grant application. Any discussion? Well, let's have a motion first.
Page 3, it could be as simple as I move to accept or to move forward the Leelanau County Resolution 2023 and the balance of that information is listed at the very header of that document.
Do you want me to read it to you? So moved.
Yeah, would the clerk read it?
I've got it.
Yeah.
Community corrections motion Okay, so I would move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the county resolution 2023 13th Circuit Court Community Corrections fiscal year 2024 grant application for submission to the Michigan Department of Corrections as presented.
Support.
Although we need to call a roll on that one.
Right, did you want to call for discussion?
I will do that. Yes, any discussion? I didn't think I saw anybody that had any discussion. Would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Loutman,
Yeah.
Commissioner O'Rourke,
Yes.
Commissioner Renfro,
Yes.
Commissioner Ross,
Yes.
Commissioner Wessel,
Yes.
Commissioner Alguier,
Yes.
Commissioner Kramer,
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you. We're now down to our resolution in support of the Women's Resource Center's resolution requesting the governor and the state legislators to reject funding cuts and prioritize sustainable state funding for domestic violence. And it's on page 4 of the packet that Laurel sent us on Friday. If you would like to see that resolution. And I'll turn it to Jamie to introduce it, and you have 2 people in our audience that you could introduce as well.
Okay. So the Women's Resource Center, who services women in the area, if you don't know about them, you should. They take care of women who are survivors of domestic violence. They do so in an anonymous way. And they are, from my understanding, notoriously underfunded, where neighboring states will fund this to the tune of nearly $20 million, depending on the state, Ohio, Illinois. Michigan sits at about $2 million. I would like to bring up Juliette real quick, because I'm sure that you can give us, she's the executive director of the Women's Resource Center, and so she can give you a little more background.
Hello, Commissioners. Thank you for having me here tonight. This purpose of this resolution is to just request your support for sustainable funding and really to encourage our lawmakers and our folks, representatives at the state level to prioritize funding for domestic violence and sexual violence. We at the Women's Resource Center are working with survivors every single day. And every day our hearts break over the fact that we have to be providing these services, but we know that 1 in 4 women and 1 in 6 men will experience intimate partner violence in the course of their lifetimes. So we're here as an emergency safety net to provide support to survivors. We've been around since 1975. We were just having that conversation with Commissioner Ross. And we anticipate a scheduled cutback in funding. And we're hoping that tonight you will pass this resolution to request that the governor and our legislators really prioritize survivors and the lives of survivors.
The last paragraph in our resolution, let me read that. It says, now therefore be it resolved, the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners hereby declares its support for the Women's Resource Center for the Grand Traverse area and its March 22, 2023 resolution urging the governor and the Michigan legislator to reject deep funding cuts to domestic violence and sexual assault service providers in upcoming years, and to ask the state of Michigan to make these vital services a priority for the state general fund and general purpose funding. So this is a resolution being sent to Lansing to say, please support the Women's Resource Center. Discussion, yes.
One more. Michelle's got one more.
On the very last paragraph of that, I think we just probably want to update the state representative from Jack O'Malley to Betty. Betsy.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Any other discussion or questions? Would you call the roll on that resolution?
I'm sorry, who made the motion?
Can I make, or are you making the motion? I'll make the-
No.
And you
Yeah,
can
yes,
make,
we
right
do.
here, you make it.
Oh, I'll make the motion. Okay. I'd like to move to approve the Leelanau County Resolution 2023 dash, do we have a number? Okay. Resolution by the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners in support of the Women's Resource Center's resolution requesting the governor and the state legislature to reject funding cuts and prioritize sustainable state funding for domestic violence and sexual assault services. Support.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Would the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner Kramer,
Yes.
Commissioner Lautner,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Rourke,
Absolutely.
Commissioner Rexroth,
Yes.
Commissioner Ross,
Yes.
Chairman Wessel,
Yes.
Commissioner Alguier,
Yes.
7-0.
We will add two changes on who received this, and thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
We now have on our agenda the Leelanau Tower, and this is just an update and review, really. Matt, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. All right, so the current draft was in the board packet, so I'll talk kind of at a main point summary for the meeting. The Leelanau Township Tower, we have been working on this for over a year now, and we've identified some partners in order to accomplish this project. Cherryland Electric being one of them, the Township of Leelanau being the other. So with Cherryland Electric, what they want to do is they want to give us a capital infusion in order to accomplish this project. So they're looking to give us capital upfront. And in order to do that, we should have an agreement, and the terms of the agreement are now before the board. So it would be a 25-year agreement to where they can put their equipment on 4 of our towers with no monthly rental fee on that. The equipment that they will have on the towers is very minimal. One antenna, some equipment down in the shelter, but it's very minimal compared to other ISPs even, let alone other cellular carriers. So the footprint, the loading on the tower is going to be very minimal that they will have. They're also going to be footing the bill to bring the electrical power to the tower site. If you remember this tower project we had last year, we brought Cherryland Electric in to bring power from the transformer right at the entrance to the courthouse over to the tower site, and that was about $14,000. It's a little over 470 feet. It's going to be considerably longer to bring power to the tower site up in Leelanau Township. So that could be an additional $50,000, maybe even $75,000 that they're going to be providing to the county. So I'm open to hearing any questions the board may have about the agreement. We're going back and forth with the lawyers in order to iron out the language. So if there's any concerns with the length of term or whatnot, I'd like to discuss that now.
The 3 current towers that I assume they already have equipment on.
No, not yet.
Okay, so they don't have any equipment located on any of our towers.
Correct. Yeah, no. They used to be on the central tower. That was when they were utilizing VHF radios for their communications. They have since transitioned to the 800 megahertz, so they have taken off that equipment on the tower and vacated the lease.
Begs the question why they want to be on the towers, and I guess.
It's not for communications. This is more for, it's their business model. They're going to be monitoring their meters. It's a bit easier, more efficient way for them to monitor metering. I probably shouldn't get into the nuts and bolts of it, but yeah, it's not communications. It's for non-commercial, I forget how it's worded in the contract, but yeah, it's their business model.
Do we have any information on other entities that are locating such devices and what revenue that produces with absence of such an agreement as this
We don't have anything like that. We can only compare what equipment they're putting on our tower. The antenna that they have is comparable to some of the size of equipment that we have on the towers, so it does fit into our tower fee schedule. So I'm able to take those numbers in order to assimilate what their rent would be on the tower. And realistically, their footprint on the tower would take them a little less than 12 and a half years to accumulate $200,000.
Can you provide that information to us in a number format?
Yeah.
Please. Thank you.
I didn't want to make that public at the time, so I can definitely do that.
Kim?
So the RFPs are out, correct?
Correct.
So we don't know what the cost of building this tower will be. So
Correct.
how do we know that they're gonna contribute up to 40%, but not to exceed $200,000?
Well, their contribution will be the lesser of the two, either 40% or 200,000. It'll be 40% not to exceed 200,000. So if 40% is more than 200,000, they're going to stop at 200,000.
And we won't know the RFPs until the 31st.
The end of this month. That's
So we
correct.
won't have to make it.
There's no action.
Yeah, there's no action on this. No.
Doug?
I don't have any further questions at this point.
Okay.
Anybody else? Thank you for the update.
Not a problem. Landowner agreement.
So the next one.
Yeah, so the property owner, Brian Mitchell, he actually owns the property that our Omena Tower sits on right now. He is very agreeable to have the same terms that we have in place at the Omena Tower site. So this will be a very quick negotiation. We can mirror a lot of the language that was in the Omena Tower contract. Obviously updated for dates and whatnot, but this should not be any kind of contention between the county and the Mitchells in order to get this approved.
So Matt, can you speak to how the revenue is used and what this tower provides for the residents?
Yeah, so with the terms that we will agree to with the Mitchells, there will be no land rent for the tower. We won't have to pay them quarterly, monthly, or annually for land. They will split the revenue 50-50. That's what we do with the Omena Tower. So every dollar that comes in, they get 50 cents. What that does, depending on the carriers that we have on the tower, let's just say that we had one cellular carrier on the tower like there is on the Omena Tower site. It will take us 13 years to get our return on investment for $300,000. Worst case scenario for the county.
I think I was talking to you about the revenue from the towers supports the 911 service. So that's a portion of that. Approximately right now, I think the revenue is about 16%. And then the revenue for the tower itself, implications for this for 911 service.
Yeah, the reason that this site was identified is that Leelanau Township is the most underserved area in Leelanau County for cellular and broadband purposes. So for 911 reasonings, access to 911, access to broadband, access to cellular, this site will address a lot of those shortcomings. Chairman Wessel has been very adamant about being part of this group from the beginning. So he's been a very good help in order to get things moving and going along. So this tower should be a very good fit for the citizens of Leelanau Township and the county as a whole.
And Leelanau Township has committed $100,000, but they will not receive any of the income.
Correct.
They're just making it upfront.
Yeah, they're doing it for their citizens.
Linda?
We actually, well, are we waiting for the RFP? We don't have the cost of what the tower will
Yeah.
cost us yet. So that will be one more thing we will put in our summary. Projects that you gave us earlier.
It does say to be determined, the road cost, the utility hookup and tower structure.
Oh, it is, the structure is the last one. Okay, to be determined. All right.
Any other questions for Matt on either one of these issues? Do you have any follow?
Just, we anticipate that you'll have the results of the RFPs, which will then allow the board to make a more informed decision. We'll also have a financial review of the tower revenue implications of that. So I'll have that for you in the June.
And if it all goes through, once it's completely done, there'll be lots of Leelanau Township people that'll call you. But don't expect a call before that.
We'll try to give them a call time
They can't
first.
call us.
They can't call. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are now down to item 13, and this is accepting a state of Michigan grant, and it's on page 45 of what Laurel sent to us. If somebody would like to make a motion, and then we can have discussion if you'd like. Yes, Quinn.
I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the 2023 remonumentation grant in the amount of $40,273 and authorize online signature and submittal of the grant by Director Gap.
No, that's not what
Is that the wrong one?
That's the wrong one. It's on page 8 of your cards. This is the
What page 8?
acceptance of the state of Michigan monumentation grant. It's on page 8. 80? 8 in the minutes.
So it's move to recommend to Leelanau County Board of Commissioners to, oh, this is just move the grant forward is our motion.
No, it's to
The other one?
approve the grant. It's to approve the grant agreement with the state of Michigan. for monumentation remonumentation. Where else did you say it said?
It's got the $40,000 price tag.
Yeah.
on it, so,
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just want to make sure I get the right one because there's 3 different ones here. What page are you looking at? Do you have
45.
45.
Do you have the right one?
It looks like.
Looks like it.
Okay, I'll take what you say. So just give it to me again.
Made the motion. Rachel.
The
When,
one Gwen was doing.
yeah.
I think you did.
40,273.
This is,
40,273.
I'll read
That's what's on here.
what Laurel sent us. Is this not right? It says, motion to recommend that the Board of Commissioners approve the 2023 remonumentation grant in the amount of $40,273 and authorize online signature and submittal.
So that's the one that you just reread for Gwen. Gotcha.
Is this the one we're supposed to be talking about?
As long as that is the one with the acceptance of the state of Michigan monumentation grant.
I believe it is.
And I'd say Dixie, that's
Yes,
there's not in that.
That's
so-
right. That's what Trudy,
That's page 46.
This
yes.
doesn't say that.
45.
Well, but yes, but 46 has the amount.
I got it.
That's what I read.
Thanks, Dixie.
45 is the motion, 46 is the.
thanks for keeping us honest, Michelle. This is the one that Trudy reported on. Any questions or discussion? All those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Thank you. Trudy can accept the money.
Good job, Trudy.
We now, and this is one for you, Deb,
I just have one other question though.
pardon?
Are we not going to approve the contracts then with the surveyors and
That was in the,
Oh, it was under
that was in the
consent.
consent agenda.
it went 7-0? Okay, good. Okay.
So we're now at the floodplain resolutions. Can you introduce that?
Absolutely. So in regards to the floodplain maps, this is a new process that was initiated in December of 2022. There's been a transition in terms of who manages this from internally at the county level from the standpoint, this used to be a part of planning. Now the state has required this to move to the building and safety office. And so
I'll clarify that.
okay, so Amber will give us more clarification, more information on that. A bunch of stuff here. I can hand these out as you do your presentation of that.
Thank you for being here, Amber.
Yes, glad to be here.
So these will, you should compare these to 2018 is the last time they were done.
Yeah, that's what's online right now. I went online for your
Yeah.
email and it doesn't show up fully. This shows what the changes are to some extent or suggested.
There was some glitching with the website. So just to kind of back up, as you guys know, I'm new to being the building official.
And why don't you wait till everybody has this
Sure.
paper and then we'll,
Sorry, there's a lot here.
then we'll all be listening to you.
Absolutely.
There's 3 different.
So were there a lot of changes on these maps?
Yes. Yes.
And we are approving it.
We are not approving the maps.
Thank you. Thank you, Amber.
So just a little bit of background. The building code has information in it regarding floodplains. That's where my department comes into play. We enforce the floodplain regulations as they're listed in the code. The townships are involved from a zoning perspective, and then there's also the insurance factor for the constituents. So together, both parties have to be involved in order to get this resolved. So the county, the townships were not approving the maps. The maps are done through FEMA. Okay, they're done over a certain span of time. So I've provided a small little fact sheet today. That's the one that's dated with today's date. I was on the phone for an hour with Mr. Matt Acapinti, I think is how you say his name, from Eagle. He is a wealth of information. So if anybody has additional questions afterwards, I'll forward his contact information on. But this is not something that's brand new. When the maps first came out back in 2018, there was no study done with them. So what was put forward is the original maps from the 70s and the 80s, the hard copy paper maps. That's what was digitalized. So the maps you see on that website from 2018 are actually the maps from the 70s and the 80s. So they are now doing a study, again, the information I have here, they're doing the Great Lakes coastline. So it's not just our state, but also neighboring states, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, anybody that touches the Great Lakes area. So they've done this large study, and our area was sent notification in December to let them know maps have changed and the process begins. So the townships have had 6 months to get their ordinances amended or else to create new ordinances adopting the floodplain maps and starting this whole process. So the big thing here is they have to also have an intergovernmental agreement, which we do, according to information on file, have already in place from back in 2018. All they're asking for is the dates to match up, acknowledging that my department will be enforcing the code. That's part of their agreement. The deadline is June 7th because they get 6 months past the date that they were notified. The townships have to have that information turned back into FEMA to be able to be continuously active in the floodplain insurance program. If they're suspended, that creates a big issue for flood insurance for anybody that then needs to go and get insurance, or else maybe their effective date on the policy is changing. It will be much harder for them to get flood insurance. There is private floodplain insurance available, but it is at a much greater cost and possibly limited coverage. So that's a lot of information for you guys. It was a lot of information for me to take in, but the big thing here is they're asking for signatures on this resolution in agreement that basically there's a partnership between the county and the townships. My department will do the enforcing of any new construction or remodels that for anything that's built in the floodplain. But we do not approve the maps themselves.
Go back in December, all affected townships, villages that were affected by changes have had this information, have had chances to review it in that timeframe. And whatever, I guess, I don't know what they can do other than, I guess, FEMA hands it to them and it's just the way it is, pretty much, is that?
Correct. There's probably some public input in there. I'm sure there has to be, but not knowing the behind the scenes part of how that works with the townships, but that's their starting process. There's notification that has to be given out to the public. And they were also given each one large scale print of the maps. The maps that were handed out to you today, the blue one, we used Elmwood Township as a sample, just because there's so many maps and it was difficult to navigate the site and print them out. Those are the pending maps that will go into effect on the 7th of June. And you can see a little bit here, the areas that are highlighted in blue. So if you look at the very last page of this blue packet, the areas that are highlighted in blue indicate where that floodplain designation is now going to be. So certain properties may not have been in the floodplain before, but will be now. If there's a residence within that, they will most likely be required to obtain flood insurance. That's the big change here.
So by voting yea or nay, the only thing we can affect is whether you can obtain federal floodplain insurance. It's the only thing we can, we have to accept it or they don't get insurance. I mean, that's really.
There is an appeals process, but the information I got is appeals for them, you have to provide scientific data. It can't just be because we don't like the map or I don't like that I'm in the floodplain. That's considered
The township or village would have done that already.
an individual constituents can do it too, but it's a lengthy process and it can be very expensive. To do the appeal, you have to, again, have scientific data and you're basically repeating the study that FEMA did.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Lauder.
So Amber, can you give us an example? Have the floodplains gotten in the way of any building or remodel, or have any permits been denied because of these?
No, but I can tell you that myself and my staff will definitely be looking closer at this and making sure that we are accurately following what should be done here, because the maps are going to change. So typically what happens is we receive documentation from a township indicating that the property is in a floodplain zone. That doesn't necessarily mean that the building will be in a floodplain zone. Let's say you have just wild
Or that
number.
there will be a flood in Leelanau County. I guess I'm thinking back as far as I can remember, and I don't think I can ever remember anything ever flooding in Leelanau County, except a ditch down in Elmwood once, maybe.
Yeah.
Road Commission had fixed a culvert, but I know down by Munson Hospital, that floods. Properties are flooded.
I know that my house is flooded during that ditch. I think it was the same ditch. It was my house. Yeah.
I know there was one.
Amber, you've given us a resolution that you'll want us to sign off on. If we vote to approve this, and it sounds like we don't have an option to change it, and it would disadvantage our townships if we refuse to sign.
That's my understanding, yes.
So by signing it, we're not contradicting anything that a township has previously done.
No, this is additional documentation turned into FEMA, basically checking the box that someone within the county will be enforcing this specific code section. The townships don't have that authority. That falls to my department. That's what this is.
It was on Elmwood's agenda last month. I know the other townships, I don't know, Ms. Sullivan, did they?
I can speak to that. When I spoke to Matt today, he's keeping track of everybody because he is the rep to turn into FEMA. he said that Solon Township is no longer actually gonna be participating in the program. It sounds like based on the new maps, they may not be an area of concern. And Casson Township does not participate either because they're inland and are not impacted either. So everybody else, I think he said he has 3 or 4 stragglers and they're well on track to get the documentation turned in.
Any other questions for Amber? Are we ready for a motion? Yes.
I would move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners move the local units of government approval of floodplain resolutions, intergovernmental agreements. Approve it, not move it, approve it. So agreements, period.
And
Would you
then,
like me to restate that?
Sure, please.
At the top of page
It
63.
didn't
might also
flow
be an
real
option.
well.
Kept it running.
I would move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve floodplain resolutions and intergovernmental agreements by and with the local units of government.
how about
Isn't that good enough?
this? Well, it's been suggested that we might use what's at the top of the page. Can I read it?
Sure.
Move to approve the Michigan Community Resolution and Intergovernmental Agreement to manage floodplain development for the National Flood Insurance Program as presented.
Okay.
That's,
That's fine.
that's what Glenn said.
Yeah, that's what I-
Yeah, that's what I said.
Clean that up.
Those words were in there somewhere.
Any further discussion? Is that it?
Well, this isn't really a resolution, but it's a resolution.
Yeah.
I look back to 2018 when it was approved before, this is the question I had last week, is this a resolution of the county? But it's the resolutions of the townships that we are accepting, so I'm not going to assign the resolution number, but whether or not you choose to do a roll call is up to
That
you.
was where I was going, was do we do roll call or not? But it's not really a resolution of ours.
It's not.
Just approving this resolution.
But you still.
But we can't go wrong by taking a roll call. So let's do a roll call vote.
Good job.
Commissioner Albrecht,
Yes.
Commissioner Kramer,
Yes.
Commissioner Lautner,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Rourke,
Yes.
Commissioner Rexroth,
Yes.
Commissioner Ross,
Yes.
Chairman Wessel,
Yes,
7-0.
thank you. Thank you, Amber.
Yes, thank you guys.
I sent Amber a note yesterday because she takes such good pains to work with developers and people. It's been a long time since we've heard complaints, isn't it? So, thank you, Amber.
Good, glad to hear that.
I would say that we have worked with floodplain decisions, and it is very, very difficult. And it takes time, but it is doable.
It's very
Their
costly.
maps are not always totally. They're accurate, but they're big. So you get down to the details sometimes. There's wiggle.
Yes.
When will these be available on the website?
They'll be, it sounds like effectively as of June 7th. I do have kind of a backwards way in there. So, I mean, if anybody wants to, meet with me at some point to kind of look at your areas or something, it was really tricky. I spent half the day trying to get maps. It sounds like Rob Herman would be working with me long-term to try and at least get some indication from my department as to where they sit on there once they're live. But yeah, I can help anybody with that if they want more information on them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is the Leland Dam Authority budget. There is on page 13 of our minutes, there is a motion that we approved on for moving forward with. Anybody want to make a motion?
So there was a motion last Thursday, or last Tuesday.
I can try.
There are two there.
Commissioner Lautner?
Okay, I would move to the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the reinstating the requested funding of $66,600 for Fund 805 to fund the repair of both the walkway and the control room roof of the Leland Dam.
Support.
Now discussion.
So
So,
my recollection, that's just restoring the funding amount. We still requested multiple bids. That's not yet approving the spend. That's just replacing the budget amount in the budget, right?
correct.
It's our job to maintain it.
And do we need an account number on that, where the money's coming from?
No, because we'll wait for the bids to come in before any funds are transferred to see what they are, because if they don't need all that money, they won't be transferred.
Any other discussion? All those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0. Thank you. We're now down to administration.
Okay.
16A through Z.
16A to Z, yes.
All right, so in regards to administration, the first item is the approval for the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians 2% allocation request. This was an additional request. You approved one as part of the consent agenda. It was recommended that we suggest to the Leelanau County Historical Preservation Society that they submit a subsequent 2% request for the Ford Farm Barn. So that was presented under separate cover. We're simply asking approval to submit that application as part of the collective that goes for the 2% grant.
So we're asking for both of those instead of just one.
We already approved as part of the consent agenda one of them, so
Okay,
this is
thank
now
you.
just an additional request.
Okay.
I hear a motion. Ford Farm.
I move that the Board of Commissioners approve the grant submitted by the Ford Barn Preservation Society. Right? Or a 2% grant through the Grand Traverse Band. 2% grants. Support.
Any discussion?
What was the amount?
You don't have, and you guys don't have that in separate cover?
I'm looking for a separate cover and I'm not finding it. So if you want to give us a second, we can.
And we have to have a number to.
I would think we would want to approve the number for 2% grant allocation.
I don't think there is.
Unlimited?
Minutes because they created it after me.
So it's a late addition, yeah. Well, yeah.
I'm sorry, I was under the impression that that had been forwarded to the board. I did not have it though.
When I talked to Steve, we talked about a round ballpark figure of $25,000. Which is what I said is probably what would be a good number. I do not know if that's the amount. I think it was supposed to be sent to us and I think we didn't get it. Would we be willing to support it without knowing the exact number and have the administrator send that out to us tomorrow?
I would do that. Because
We're just accepting the grant, right?
Yeah,
We're just submittal, yeah.
Yeah,
Approving the
grant,
submittal.
Right,
We're not even accepting the grant, so it, yeah.
yes.
Yes,
yeah, and
Linda.
it's the tribe that's paying.
The tribe has a pot of 2% dollars. They're going to be divvying out. So we're already asking for some, which we think is really important, and that's the 22,000. So since there's a limited amount of money, that's why I asked for the amount they're looking for, because if, we don't want to work against ourselves, but yet we do want to ask for some help for the poor farm. So I would rather put a number in it and not leave it wide open. And have, if they say, well, let's give all of Leelanau County's allocation to the poor farmer, and then we're not going to have any for our projects.
Would you be willing to take a 5-minute break and we'll get that number now?
Sure.
Yeah, just one last thing.
Anyone's got
Well, another point you made is that this was the fewest number of 2% grants ever submitted by the county. So I don't believe that we'd be overstating our ask if we only have 2, correct? Is that a huge amount of money, you're saying?
No, it's not a huge amount of money, but it's historically, we've gotten one funded. You know, because they'll look at, I believe it tends to break down into numbers, and if they've got so much left, then they may have their priorities, and I mean, once we weren't funded at all, so it was like,
I would support the idea of taking a 5-minute break and
Okay.
seeing if we can get a number.
and an idea of the project. Do they have a project in mind?
We'll take
Yeah, go ahead.
5-minute break. The amount requested on that grant application was $76,000. We could approve it at that amount, or we could approve the grant application and change the amount. Commissioner Lautner?
First of all, thank you, Deb, for digging this up, because I think this is really important. This also tells us what they hope to do with the barn, which is turn it into a limited seasonal public assembly for the benefit of the residents and visitors of Leelanau County. So to turn the old barn into a usable space with all the requirements of the American Disabilities Act. It's a lofty project. It's a $152,000 project, but it would be certainly a benefit, as Kemi has said on break. That would be a benefit to all the residents of the county if we approve it. So. And I think Jen has. Do you want to read my motion, Jen?
Do you want it by you or the original?
The original. Go ahead.
Okay, motion by Ross, that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians 2% allocation request on behalf of the Leelanau County Historic Preservation Society Barn Use Committee in the amount of $76,000 as presented, seconded by Elmire.
Discussion. We have a motion. It can be amended if there's concern about the amount, or we can go with the original motion.
Well, with the amount,
Yes, Commissioner Jelka?
they could ask for 76, and the tribe doesn't have to give them 76.
Exactly right.
So I'm not sure we should change it.
Support.
Commissioner O'Rourke, you want to speak to that?
I support
Okay.
not changing it, leave it at 76.
Commissioner Lautner?
Now that I see the project, that is very a helpful thing to do. Now that I know what they want to do with the money, they are requesting that the county help pay for the barn. That's not part of the agreement with the society, but this is one way for us to do it without having to come out of our own general fund. It's basically monies, it's secret monies, basically. Payments in lieu of taxes, but it would go to a good cause.
Any other discussion? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved, 7-0. Thank you. This is why we like to get them not at late editions, but the Tuesday before.
That's some of that concerns me. I wish we could get it tightened up.
Okay, are we ready
16B.
to move down to item 17?
16.
Or 16.
16B.
Yeah, no, we've got 16B.
16B, yes. Go ahead, Deb.
So item 16B is being presented as a late addition to address concerns regarding staffing levels. The Leelanau County fiscal year 2023 budget rules state that item 5 and 6 state that the chief administrative officer, together with the finance director, shall jointly be responsible for assuming departmental budgets, for assuring that departmental budgets are charged for salaries and wages in accordance with adopted authority staffing levels for their respective budgets. And number 6 states that the approved authorized staffing level contained in the budget shall limit the number of employees who can be employed, and no funds are appropriated for any position employee not on the authorized staffing level. So, and the board has the ability to approve these, or is required to approve any adjustments to that. And so there was a recent issue in the prosecutor's office regarding an individual who retired and another person was hired, and there was a vacation of the new person, so they brought the retired individual back in for a matter of 5 days. And during those 5 days, it increased the staffing level by 1 individual. And Kathy brought this to my attention. And as the interim finance director, she is ultimately responsible for that overpayment. So she and I both agreed, and I know she was very adamant that wanting to get this approved, and I support her in that from the standpoint that we want to make sure for our audit next year, everything is clean. So Kathy, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yes, I just want to maybe clear up just one detail there is that we did have two different departments have issues hiring. You're referring to probate where we had someone stay longer to accommodate someone who couldn't start till another date, but there was no overlap. That was the vacation that you mentioned. That was in probate, family court with Erica Freem, who stayed a week longer while we waited for her replacement to come in, Nicole. Correct? Yes. Sage, excuse me, Sage. In this situation, we had the replacement for Stacy Lamb start on May 1st. Stacy Lamb was promoted to Patty Kilborn's position on May 1st, and Patty Kilborn stayed from May 1st through May 5th to help with the overlap of training because two people moved to new positions. It was brought to my attention that this could happen by Darcy Weaver, the Human Resources Director. At the time, I said, oh, thanks. I'm glad for letting me know. Had I been on my game, I would have remembered a year ago at this time when Cam Clark was hired to replace Joe Pobolo for his retirement. Judge Kromkowski came to the board and said, I'd like a little overlap. I would like to have approval to have these individuals overlap a bit. And she got a 7-week extension where Cam served as a 60% employee for those 6 weeks before Joe Pobolo retired. Now, am I stating this all correctly? Because this is, okay. And so when I was reviewing payroll at the end, I thought, oh, great. Okay, I just paid 3 people for a 2-person staff for 1 week. Now, I'm not sure what the rest of May looks like. I did estimate this to be a $1,500 issue. I don't have any firsthand knowledge if there's going to be anything else in May. We have a pay period ending this Friday, so I don't have information. So maybe we should up it just to be careful, but I'll let Deb address it.
So I did speak to the prosecutor. If I said probate, I'm sorry, I misspoke.
Oh, no,
It was
it
the prosecutor's office and has assured me that this will not happen again. It's a one-time thing because of a vacation. So I think this amount would be sufficient.
Okay.
But as we have transition coming, right, this is probably gonna be a more normal thing for us, and making sure that we know that overlap is part of our budget, right, too?
It's not, no. Budgetary, when we do the staffing levels, it is basically right to the hour, per hour rate with benefits per person that are approved.
So we have
That
to
we
come-
do not budget for overlap.
So they need to come to us, the department. heads
They need to
us.
come ahead of time and say, it would make sense for us with what we're going through to do this. So would you approve that? And the board would have the ability to say yes or no. It is not budgeted.
Commissioner O'Gara?
I move that the County Board of Commissioners approve the interim finance director's request to pay regular wages to County Kilburn for the first week of May for overlapping training as needed for the new administrative, legal secretary, and legal secretary.
Discussion. Jim?
I would like to thank Patty Kilborn for her work, and even back when I was an officer in 2008, they've done a fantastic job. Stacy Lamb also, and just congratulations to them and thanks for the service.
Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Got the motion, Michelle?
Yeah.
All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved, 7-0.
Thank you. Now I'll be able to sleep at night.
Thank you for catching that too.
In the next 2 years, we talked about a lot of people going in and out and retiring and stuff, so this is going to come up more often. The transition.
I suspect that the administrator at the next department heads meeting is going to have this on her agenda.
I suspect I will withdraw my comment.
Okay, now what's next?
I have to admit, I'm quite kerfluffled. I'm trying to find out what was D and E.
Well, we're at
committee of the
C.
whole.
He was building and grounds.
Yes,
Yeah,
He was,
and he was personnel manual.
thank you. I'm so glad you all see. That's why.
I wrote it down in the limited space.
All
that I
right,
wrote.
so in regards to D, I believe
how about C?
C, the finance.
Finance, audit, and.
Okay,
committee
so
of the whole.
fine, thank you. Fine, I can't find my paper, so I'm gonna rely on all of you. So C had to do with the upcoming, we have a finance and audit committee. And the board had determined early in the year that we wanted to move that to committee of the whole, so that all board members were involved in those discussions. So as we prepare internally, the finance team will be reviewing the audit documents, and then we have some final things we need to submit to the auditors. Once that's completed, then we'll have a review that typically is brought back to the board at a commissioner meeting, but I would be suggesting, because this year is unique, that perhaps we have a special meeting or a committee meeting to spend a little bit more time and do a deeper dive on that audit finding. I do not have a date before you right now because I've reached out to the auditors seeking kind of confirmation on timeline. And so I anticipate this would be the first week of June. So as soon as I get more information, but typically to have a meeting or a special meeting, it usually requires at least a board motion or support.
Yeah, if we're gonna have a special session, look at the signature sheets, and I'd like 3, which would, sorry, is that right?
Yeah, that's.
Administrator Allen and I spoke earlier, and because you do, when it's presented and you're taking it all in, you do have to accept it because it will be submitted to the state of Michigan. We have our F-65 and some other reports. And June 30th is the deadline it comes. So Administrator Allen is correct, based that this is already the 16th of May. It would be sometime in June, and Mr. Peacock would come out and explain the whole thing to answer your questions, and we would try to get you those books. My guess is we will get the books maybe the end of May. I mean, we're just in the review process, May or 1st of June. So as soon as we have those books, we'll get them to you so you can review them if you want, but you're not obligated, because he will go page by page, and it's different. There's different reporting requirements for county government, so a lot of this you won't have seen before. The returning commissioners will.
We will. We could conceivably even do it the afternoon of the executive committee meeting. Depending on how that falls for everyone. So if everyone is understanding that we'll move forward with this concept, I'll get some dates out to everyone as soon as I get some information from the auditors and I have a better understanding of where we are with our internal review, but I just want to kind of put that on the table.
Thank you. And now you have
Building and grounds.
And I would like to suggest that we move forward with a building and grounds committee meeting to update you on some of the information that has come through in regards to the facade project. There was a review today. I'm still waiting for a document. So I think building and grounds, there's some safety issues to review. There is the facade issue. So if we can bring that back to building and grounds to evaluate, or we can certainly bring that information back to the full board.
Commissioner Lautner.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, that we could probably, to move things along, like this, take it right to the executive committee meeting. And then if there's anything you want kicked back to the buildings and grounds, we could take it.
Start with the executive committee and then if
Yeah,
there's
put it
detail.
on executive.
Thank you. We're now down to the 7, right?
I think E.
17.
Still got
E, do I
We
have?
We got an E too.
Personnel manual review.
Personnel manual.
Okay, so thank you. Again, met with the clerk today and we had some more detailed conversation. She obviously, as someone that has done HR in the past, had a great deal of comments and thoughts, and those things had not had the opportunity to be incorporated into the document. So I think we're going to take another pause and have a meaningful conversation between our HR director, myself, and the clerk to kind of vet through some of those things, make sure that we're referencing current policy in the proposed document, kind of cleaning up that document, making it something a little bit more simple, I think, moving forward. So pause on your review of that document. We'll be coming, again, this is not a race. We want to make sure we get it right. And so we'll pause again and then bring back a refined document to you in June. Okay.
James, a busy month.
I think that concludes my BC.
Thank you. We are now down to our discussion on per diem, and we do have a handout. And I believe that everybody received one of these. And I think it's true that the only changes we made to committees, commissions, assignments are those that are mandated by law. And so the authority, the land bank, the brownfield authority, or the airport authority, all other per diems were as we initially had, except we want to have some discussion about the MAC appointments. So you want to pick up from there?
Actually, there's a little bit more in terms of action items on this. So this document is now updated to reflect accurately if there are agency payments. This has been, filled out here. And also if there are certain committees or commissions that need to have a determination from the board. So for example, the board needs to make a determination in terms of how you want to handle per diem payment and mileage payment for the Board of Public Works. Also, so those are the ones that are marked for the red star. The Leelanau Dam Authority, as well as the Northern Michigan Counties, I'm sorry, it should be actually, yes, there is no, this is a new appointment, and so there's not been a formal motion regarding that Northern Michigan Counties Association that Commissioner Algeier has requested be put on this list as a standing committee.
And I'd like to say that of the at least 25 counties that meet for the Northern Michigan Counties Association, we are one of the very, very few that has not had a commissioner attending for years. Chet just kind of went. We used to have a commissioner attend, and that commissioner, I understand, retired, and no one else, I don't know if they didn't want to go, but everyone else sends a commissioner. And so it's Northern Michigan Counties Association. I went yesterday. It's very valuable because all the counties talk about the issues they're dealing with, how they're dealing with them, and we get an update from Dina Bosworth, who is the MAC legislative person who deals with our legislature and represents the counties for the issues that are relevant for counties. So it's a really valuable meeting, and I think it's about time Leelanau County represented the commissioner like everyone else. I'd like to add that the Northern Michigan Regional Entity Substance Abuse Oversight Policy Board, when I was on that for 4 years, we were the only county there that did not send a commissioner. We were the only county that didn't send a commissioner. So next January, we might discuss that. I feel very good with Greg. Is his last name? McMorrow attending, but that's something we might consider next January. And not on this list, but okay, I'll wait till we get to the next.
Yeah, I want to make sure we take it in steps so that we know what we've done when we're done with it. So 17A is approval of our list of commissions as presented to the authorities off.
Does that include adding a per diem for the?
We will add that. That's down later.
So we have three different.
Okay. See it. I see it. Thank you.
If I may,
Yes.
since we have a standard procedure, which is $70 for a full day and $40 for a half day, Kath, can you clarify what is considered a half day and a full day?
Well, the way I apply it is, let's say executive day, you come in at 9 and you're finished by noon, that's $40. That's a half day. If I see, because I'm at these meetings or I'm listening to them on Zoom, and you recess, I'll double check in the afternoon, and if it's 1:52 or 2:52 or whatever your adjournment is, that's a full day. That's how we apply it.
So is it 4 hours versus more than 4 hours?
I like a 3.5.
Okay. So if that's.
It's not really a rule.
It's good math. I know, it's really good math.
Yeah, it's-
7-hour workday.
Because
So for-
sometimes you break for lunch, sometimes you don't, sometimes you work through, you know.
So for those 3 items that are starred, I would suggest that we utilize the same structure that we utilize for all of our meetings, 70-40. And in terms of the mileage, I would say that that would be appropriate as well. If so determined by the board.
How many meetings does the MAC go? Yeah, 1 a month.
1 a month and like next month. they're gonna meet. So, but usually it's once a
Do you
month.
think Board of Public Works turns yellow?
I went to Ross
That's
County.
step 2, right? I mean,
It is,
Yes.
it is.
so- I understand.
Jamie?
Now, I've just been going over the list. I think we're missing about half of the list here.
This, we're gonna start just with the commissioner. So commissioner reimbursements is what we want to take care of initially and get this addressed, because then we'll have to come back and bring the list of other,
The committees.
the committees. There are additional committees, but these were some that we need to get addressed initially, and then we'll bring back a second set of those committees.
As Ms. Gillespie explained, that these are the only changes, the rest is standing.
Nobody suggested any changes to our regular
Okay.
assignments that weren't mandated by law.
I'm talking about
We
3
had a
items.
couple of gaps that we were trying to fill in. Commissioner Lautner?
There is down under planning commission, the housing action committee. So I've been serving on that one because I was appointed by the planning commission, which I was appointed to by this board. So I'm just suggesting that one go back to Virginia.
Which one was it?
It's down, planning commission, and it's a housing action committee. Says includes one commissioner.
There's 1 commission, yes, so that should also be a.
Yeah, didn't we say last time that we would pay?
We touched on it, we just didn't finalize it.
You are the official representative from the planning commission. Gwen and I attend that at our own choice because we're interested in it. But you, because you're the planning commission appointee, you get planning commission stipend for that. We do not get a stipend for that. Commissioner Ross?
I just wondered why the Benzie Health Department, the Board of Health aren't included. There's no reason, they just,
Oh, they pay it, right? Yeah.
oh, I see.
It's temporary.
Okay.
I have a question on we are the Board of Public Works. And those meetings are attached to our executive committee. I don't see an additional stipend for that. It just might extend the morning meeting into a full day stipend.
Sounds good.
You're looking right at me. The administrator and I just talked about this last week, and it's sitting on the corner of my desk because in the resolution it established the Board of Public Works and the Leland Dam Authority. And on one of those, you have 2 elected officials that serve on them. And it states in that resolution that a salary will be set. I haven't had a chance in the last 2 days to call Attorney Perone, because I believe I had talked with Ms. Evans and with Administrator Allen, and that's who adopted that. So what does that mean? Because it is separate from the statutory duties. It's a separate body. So what does the salary mean? Does it mean just a per diem? So I am gonna follow up with him unless you take some other action, but I think we have to have that clarity because whichever one the county treasurer serves on and the drain commissioners, these are separate statutory duties for them, and the salary would be established for them also. It doesn't mean perhaps that it couldn't be per diem, but I think we need to get clarification on what that means, because it's very specific in there. And I researched the MCL on that too, and it's also very specific in there.
But to clarify, if they offered a per diem and kept it consistent with all the others, it would address that.
It could, it could. I didn't have a chance to call, but if you call, that's great.
I think that was our intention when we did that.
Well, we want to make sure that if we go to a member on the one board, the drain commissioner and treasurer, if they so choose, would be, need to be entitled to that and know that. And it might just take also another motion, I don't know. And that's easy enough to bring forward too, so with those other two positions, but that's been in there and it's been hanging out there for a while. I just didn't have time to mess with it.
Okay.
So
Okay.
if we make a motion to, well, let's go back. So are we, so the, for the Association of Counties, is that for the monthly meeting is, or does that include if the commissioners want to attend the MAC annual meeting? No.
And
Are
second
those come
issue?
to this
Just
board?
Are you
a second
talking about-
issue, let's get,
Second issue, okay.
try and get through the first issue, which is slightly
Okay.
confusing right now already.
And I'd like to say that the NMCA is not part of MEC. It's a separate board. It is not a MEC.
Let's stay on.
Well, I just,
our
she was, they
agenda
were
here.
combining it, so I'm just making that clear.
Isn't it done through MAC?
No, but they work with MEC.
I'd like to, since this, we're talking about commissioner per diems.
Okay.
So what we do with the elected officials who are part of that Board of Public Works and aren't here anyway for a meeting is probably a separate issue. But for us, it's a part, we're going to be here anyway. So it just extends our meeting and it either puts us in over a half day or under a half day.
Dam means different dates though.
Pardon?
The dam authority meets on different dates, like,
He's just addressing
I'm
Board of
just
Public Works
addressing
only.
Board of Public Works.
Board of Public Works only, yeah. I agree.
Oh, you agree?
Assessment,
Okay,
Chairman on that.
you got that?
Yes.
And I agree.
Now, the dam authority, I think that's separate, it's a separate meeting, and we have a commissioner appointed to that, and that ought to be for per diem. As with our regular board budget rules, right?
Yes, and to take it one step further, I would say if we have an elected official serving on it, if it's during business hours and they already have a salary for their elected position, no extra stipend for that.
Overnight.
Not a separate salary for that.
My assumption is that the salary
But
they
that's
get
what
are
we have
for
to
their
clarify.
statutory duties,
That's not what
and
the
this
law says.
is above the
But they are
statutory
being paid a
duties.
salary already.
But again, we're not.
But
we're
that
not on-
salary might be $1. You're gonna get that
We're
clarified.
still not on item one, which doesn't address it
Okay.
anyway, because.
So I think we're ready to approve this list of
Okay.
per diems. The changes we made are the authorities that we had to, and
And are we adding the stars in less the Board of Public Works on that then?
I'm confused. I'm not sure I'm understanding the Board of Public Works concept, even though it's the same day. I think you still need to fill that in here. It still would be relevant. It's either 40 or 70 based on if you're a partial day or a full day.
If we were
I'm fine.
to look at this, like Board of Public Works, we could fill in the commissioner. It
That's
says
all.
also includes, but if we don't look at the treasurer or the drain commissioner, then we have to establish that as a separate $1 salary. We could do it for the commissioner.
I thought we were just saying that if we meet the Board of Public Works, it's just part of our meeting. We
It
get
is
one per
unless
diem that
it's,
day.
right, unless, and that's what I'm saying. But that we already know that. That's what we set it up on those days because it might just extend it. to-
Minister Allen has a point on
So
that.
we don't get two.
That
per
is that,
diem.
what I'm saying, that would fall, no, but it would fall under our per diem policy already for the commissioners.
Unless we cancel
If
all
you
of
don't address it in this and you change the meeting date, now we have a whole conflict that I have to come back and get board approval for.
Oh.
So it would be clear if we just made it
I mean-
consistent for all those stars that it was the same as the other meetings. That's my recommendation.
Actually, from a
That's-
math perspective, the most it burdens the county is $10 on that day because 2 half-day meetings at 40 as opposed to a 70 full-day meeting is only $10. And if it solves Minister Allen's,
Let's
And,
say
and
this.
we won't even talk about how it's almost illogical to talk about 2 per diems in a day because per diem
No,
means
no,
per day.
yeah, this for policy, yeah,
I'm confident that our finance department will
yeah.
catch
I
that.
think it
And I
should be-
want to
So-
clarify that it's not just per diem for the NMCA, but it's mileage as well.
We are.
We're not-
we're still on item 1 because we get
Well,
there.
that is,
No, it's not in this one.
But I guess my point is, can we settle this for commissioners tonight for these boards?
Pardon?
Can we settle it for commissioners tonight? There's still the question of the treasurer, dream commissioner, et cetera.
It sounds like the administrator is at least convinced me that if we don't fill in a number there, we'll be back at this again.
Okay. fill it in.
Because if it's a different day and we come in for a special meeting to review public works.
Commissioners would fall under the per diem policy, I would say, even if it's a different day, we have a per diem policy for commissioners. That's what I would say. I wouldn't make it any different. That would just be,
and if we're approving this sheet, then I don't see why we're not approving 4 copies. of this sheet. Oh, I just want to make sure. Okay.
Because we have to do that at 1C, that's on the agenda for 1C. We have a motion on the floor, I think.
it sounds like we gotta put this off till we get an opinion on that salary. Because
We don't have a
This-
motion.
I'm gonna approve this sheet
I
because it
think we're
doesn't
making
say-
it more complicated than we need to make it.
well, if per diem it would be very simple if we just do it as per diem, but if the law says salary and we have to set it as salary, the question is, can we set the
That's your
salary?
motion? Approve that with the per diem for the Board of Public Works?
I don't know if we can. I wish. It's
If-
logical.
if-
Might be too logical.
If we're making a
For
motion
today.
that only applies to commissioners,
Yes.
which is what we're trying to do. Correct. The salary or the executives, that would be a separate motion anyway, so this motion would not impact theirs, we wouldn't be saying anything about them, we're saying what will commissioners be reimbursed, which is a motion we're trying to accomplish.
But
right?
it's sidebar over here. I've learned
Per diem's not a salary.
per diem is not a salary. If the law says salary.
Right, and no one's saying
We're
anything
not-
about a
we're not
salary, we're not
dealing
talking
with
about any of the executive. we're just-
Well,
It also means you though. That's what.
We are the Board of Public Works. We appointed ourselves Board of Public Works.
Yeah.
and-
But we're
Okay,
not
so
the
that's,
elected officials, so we're not
when
the only one.
when you mentioned that, I thought you only mentioned
Not those
salary
two.
as applied to, so it's both Board of Public Works
Full
and
board.
Leelanau?
Full board. So those two, we
So I didn't
don't
realize
know
that that's new information, I'm sorry, so that's why they're pushing back.
The
because-
resolution says to set a salary.
And we're deferring to the administrator because that's your person.
And your person is saying if we set the salary as a standard per diem of $70 per day or $40 for a half day and mileage, then that is consistent with the payments that have been set, which is what we were trying to accomplish by redoing all this to come up with a standard document.
Looking for a
Okay, so-
motion to say that?
yes, all right, I'll say this.
For Board of
Move this
Public
along.
Works, so
So I would make a motion that we approve this schedule, including the Board of Public Works, the Leland Dam Authority, the Northern Michigan Counties Association, And I suppose we should have this, and then however that falls under, it meets once a month, I guess, is how that one's gonna, we have here. And under the planning commission, the housing action committee, one commissioner. Per council review.
Or
And my discussion would be, we are not approving the per diems that are listed, just what's on the list.
per diem is a standard, it's $70.
No, because they're saying they don't want to talk about the per diems for the NFCA yet.
We need to
And
have
I'm
an
saying
official.
if all the per diems are gonna be there,
When-
just include
I
it.
just
We
included
have
it,
a
right?
motion that included that right there on the.
Right there, she just did.
For council review.
NMC.
Yep, she just included it.
Per council review.
Yes.
She-
With-
Got it.
With slam dunk.
That's what she just did.
Yeah, what the motion was.
Okay. You kept saying no.
Well, we did it that way, so we have a motion.
Is there any discussion?
Do you need
Yes, sir.
support? In case you need support.
I have a motion and a second. All those in support of the motion, say aye.
Please, yes, thank you.
Opposed, same. Now, we do not have to do item C because we've done it.
Right.
We're moving ahead.
Right.
17B though, does still need to be addressed. 17B does still need to be addressed. Do each of you have a copy of this document? It was handed out.
Yes.
Okay. Perhaps this would be of help. So it says Leelanau County Board of Commissioners, May 16 regular session. There was the motion
Yep.
that had been previously made to approve. Under B. Actually, I don't think that's actually on there under 17B. I moved to approve. So this is the potential. There was a motion that was made at the last meeting, but it did not move forward from the executive committee to the regular meeting. That this is what 17B is addressing in terms of to include the MAC, Michigan Association of Counties, into, and we can remove the NMCA. And that, 'cause we've already addressed it. Would be eligible for per diem payment. Commissioners appointed to this. So this is where we are with this particular item to move this forward. The MAC is not a, we're not always guaranteed a seat on MAC. So therefore, it is not on this list because it is not a standing committee. And so this is kind of a unique situation that has been brought up by Commissioner Alguier. So we would be looking for a motion to move that approval process forward.
Commissioner Lutner and then Commissioner Richard.
Oh,
Okay.
you gotta make the motion.
No, I clarification. We have two things. And the Ag and Tourism Committee, is that under the NMCA?
Yes.
Okay,
No. It's under MAC. That's under
that's
MAC.
under MAC. Okay, that's what I'd ask you.
But I think
earlier.
we're doing the conference, friends, aren't we?
Because what we have done in the
can I-
past is
Two issues.
if we want to go to the MAC conference annual meeting, that's the one I think ought to fall under these. So in the past, if we wanted to go to that conference, we, the Board of Commissioners, said, okay, you do want to go, I make a motion, these three go, and then it was paid. That's the way I would prefer to do the MAC, continue to do the MAC. That just seems to work. Then we know who's going to the annual meeting, et cetera.
Clarifying question on that before we go to Gwen. I think what we've got there is in under 17B, the second paragraph, a motion, I move to approve registration, travel, and mileage reimbursement for any workshops, committees, subcommittees, or study groups without per diem for commissioners if approved in advance by this body. So I think that's saying what you were saying, that we will support commissioners going. It's outside of our per diem, but we go and we cover expenses. Was that the intent of what you were?
Yeah, that's different, but I think they should be brought to us in advance, yeah, individually. Yes, so
And that's
it's like there was a conference on something and I choose to go, this board would say yes, and you've got permission to go.
And
That's what it says.
That
Yep,
says if
okay.
approved in advance.
Yep, okay, I'm okay with that, yep.
Gwen?
I did ask for approval in advance because I read the board policy. Because we were going over our per diem policy. So I read the policy and it said if you get approval in advance. And I did, and we all voted on it, but then the motion was set aside because it was included with land bank, brownfield, and airport concerns. So when we set aside the entire motion, that approval got set aside.
That's right.
And I've never asked for per diem for going to a conference before. And I don't think I would necessarily always do that, except I did read the policy, but I went alone. And I went there with the intention of doing some work and I did. So I feel very good about, I felt okay about that. I'm not thinking this is something I'll always do, but I did go alone and I worked.
And you reported back to us.
And I reported back. So I'm just bringing, this is up again because it was approved in advance and we realized it was set aside with the other issue.
I'd like to suggest we get a motion on the table and then we can have further discussion. Pamela?
I move to approve registration, travel, or mileage reimbursements for any workshops, committees, subcommittees, or study groups without per diem for commissioners if approved in advance by a majority of the county board of commissioners.
Support for discussion.
Now discussion. These are separate from our designated reps. These are, if we want to go.
I just have an issue because sometimes things overlap and run amok here a little bit. By the majority of the county board of commissioners, I see nothing wrong with our administrator if we don't have the right time to approve in advance. I mean, if something comes up and we, it doesn't fall by our meeting or to get on the agenda, she should be able to.
Well, except that we're the board and so we have to approve.
It just works.
Thank you, Commissioner Lautner.
Is it just understood then that this would fall under our county travel policy? So that's how that works, like we just heard, department had to come before us and here's the cost and here's what I want, and by majority of the board, we approve it. And that was, he has a budget for travel. So will this fall under the county, does it need to say county travel policy? Because I would think it does.
I just have to ask a clarification question where I am in the meeting right now.
Sure.
And the motion that Commissioner Ross just made that was seconded by Commissioner O'Rourke is the one to move to approve registration, travel,
That's correct.
or mileage reimbursements for any workshops, committees. And this is without per diem for commissioners if approved in advance.
So it's actually B2.
It's the second motion under B.
I seconded it for
And you
discussion.
seconded it for discussion. And is this just if you don't do it without advance notice to the board, you're going to have a potential issue if everyone just starts going to whatever they deem is necessary that maybe is not necessary.
That's true, but what I was saying, if we get a shortfall, things overlap. And we're not gonna have a board meeting by something coming up. That's why in an emergency, she should be able to approve.
I don't think that, my impression, I don't think that falls within her line of authority.
Most conferences, well in advance of 30 to 60 days, but, so I appreciate that to help the
Trying to
board.
get her more stuff to do.
Thank you so much, Commissioner.
Let's,
Question.
Okay.
So I'm questioning why this says without per diem when our policy is that you can get a per diem if it's approved in advance. So why does this say without per diem? And it's underlined. Our policy, basically what we're doing with this is changing our board policy.
Correct. Right.
And I don't think we've entered into a board policy change.
Well,
And I thought we were just addressing the fact, why are we changing board policy when I was just asking if I can submit my.
This
full
is not directed at
thing.
your request. This was when we were looking at per diem and travel. It felt like one of those areas, there was lots of questions. We can clarify board rules at any time we want to. That's what the motion on the floor is. Commissioner Lautner?
I hadn't seen this ahead of time, and kind of the more I read it, what I want to think about it a little bit, because I think, I know the intent is good, and this isn't directed at any of us. However, when I start thinking of all of the things that I could be attending that I'm invited to, and some I have gone to in the past, just on my own, like I'll use for example, here's another one, I'm on the planning commission, and here's another zoning administrator's opportunity for training coming up. We're invited to them all the time. Housing, I'm invited to them all the time. I would be bringing you something that, one or two a month, probably, if it fell under that. So I guess my point is that, do we want to open up the door to potentially outside of, beyond this list? And I'm not sure that we do, because there is that, there's this, the Michigan Transportation MPO they're working on with, it's a great interest to us. In fact, I know Deb has some interest in possibly having a seat at the table. So I have some interest in going to those meetings. So if I came and said, I'll represent the board, I'll go to those meetings and I just think we could blow our budget up. And I'm not sure about that. But when it comes to the MAC conference, I think that's a very important. I did, a few of us attended that one a couple of years ago, and I got a lot out of it. I think that is, and that would be open to all the board of commissioners. It directly impacts us as a board of commissioners. I can see that, but we have to come before the board in advance, and I think we might have gotten $40 a day for that while we were there, but that's different. So I'm not sure about this.
Doug?
Whatever policy we put together depends to some extent on our prudence and on our integrity and how we do our job. So I'm not as concerned about that. I mean, I would just hope that everyone here knows that some of this stuff is just part and parcel of what we do, that every time you get invited, or every time you go somewhere, every time you do something, you gotta come in and ask. Because I think that's just part of our personal responsibility. And you cannot craft a policy that will take care of everyone who wants to do something wrong. They'll find a way to do it if they want to. So I don't have a problem with the motion at the end based on the fact that I think hopefully people here act with integrity and responsibility.
Jim, and then Gwen.
This does not apply to our standard committees. Is that correct?
Correct. This is only conferences where we're going as a commissioner, but not the representative commissioner.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm frankly very confused. Because you got a motion here to change board policy on per diems for conferences. I'm reading 17B1 and 2 that was about a request that I made before the motion was set aside to get a legal opinion. I didn't read this, this is, I think that's 18 and should have been a late request to change board policy. I was just asking if we could reintroduce a motion that was set aside inadvertently, and I can turn in my expense report. And we were also going to deal with the MAC Ag and Tourism. So which are we doing? Is there something here I'm not reading that we're changing board policy?
Michelle?
Administrator Allen. We could talk about this, but I'm just listening to you, as I'm sure the administrator is listening to you. I'm not taking this motion that you are making here as someone that looks at these policies frequently, that you're adjusting county policies. You don't have a county policy in front of you. You're talking about a board motion that applies strictly to you as commissioners. Am I correct? We're not adjusting our
Well,
travel.
this one is adjusting our travel.
Well, we don't have a
Policy.
travel policy in front of you. That would be a different conversation where.
That's
we're
what I
doing a
was
travel
bringing up.
policy. The motion you're talking about, I believe, I'm not a commissioner, I'm just trying to get my minutes straight here, and I'm struggling a little bit. Is that you're talking about a motion that applies strictly to the 7 of you, not to me, not to a department head, not to the administrator. We come before you for registrations. We don't get per diems because we get paid a salary or our wages. Of course, we get paid when we go to those. We come before you only when we go out of state. So I'm not thinking that you're changing our travel policy. You're just talking about the 7 of you. So that would probably be helpful to have that clarified.
Perhaps for clarity, that should say, I move to approve registration, travel, or mileage reimbursement for any commissioner who attends workshops, committees, or subcommittees, or study groups without per diem. Just add that in. Does that make that clear? We're only affecting
Or
commissioners.
commission, does say.
Oh, yeah, I guess it says it later.
It doesn't say it.
Yeah, it does say it. I guess. Yeah, so I don't, yeah, it does say
So
for
where do
commissioners.
the
and then-
It does, but Commissioner Allgaier is concerned.
When? What?
Where on the agenda is that? meeting? That we're changing board rules?
We've been reminded, we're changing our policy, for commissioner attendance at committees or conferences.
And where is that on here?
8, 17, 18.
17B2. Well, it's addressing specifically the MAC conference, which was then this was to address how to do that.
I move to table this.
Part of knowing is when you ought to give up.
Yeah.
I think we have approved the master list. We have that in place.
Yeah.
We have approved, I believe, Gwen Alder, being our rep for the MAC governance committee, because we appointed that as a group
We never voted on
3
that
months
motion.
ago.
That never went to full board. That never was approved by the board of commissioners.
It was in the consent agenda.
Gwen was gone.
We researched it.
Oh, it was in the consent?
Yeah.
Even though we
Agenda
pulled that
in
item?
February. That's different.
Okay,
NNCA.
we'll look at that one. That's fine.
I know, we had to dig, Laurel, thank Laurel, she found it.
I think we're,
So, wait a minute.
Let's look at that. Yeah, I moved to retable this.
I
Just, we already have one.
So I submitted my expenses to go to the MAC conference, guys, and I got it approved in advance.
Okay, I thought that we set that aside, so I want to see where we actually, I don't remember.
How
that.
long do we have to wait? Do I have to wait?
Well, if it's approved, you shouldn't have to, but.
Well, it was
let me-
set aside with, it was part of the bigger motion.
let me try this on. I think we
I was
do
just
have,
trying to finish
we
it.
do have board policy, and it does say that commissioners may attend and get per diem if they attend a conference. That's what our current policy has.
And I asked in advance.
And she attended, she asked in advance, she's requested per diem. We need to,
But we have a list of things we're quote unquote allowed to attend. So we don't just randomly go
No,
to.
This was MAC conference.
I know, I'm just saying, we do go to a lot of committees and subcommittees and we go to a lot of revenue county, we do all that. Those are not, they're not on the list of payables. That's what brought us to the table
Okay,
today.
when we resurrect this, we'll be back to that. But for now, I think we need, unless there's objection, I think we need to reimburse Commissioner Algar for her conference she attended and pay her per diem, which our current policy says she can get.
Thank you.
I still believe that we ought to change that policy, but let's do that when we're more organized than we are tonight.
And when there's an agenda. Question.
We have a
Chairman Russell
motion,
asked if I wanted to be the on the ag
We have a
tourism.
motion to table. Motion to table,
Yes.
second?
Support.
All those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Good, we're done with that.
I thought we had a motion on the floor before that, and we voted on for discussion. So you think,
So we're still not
so
doing.
you can table it or? Just point of order, I mean.
And I guess I'm the chair, I have to
Yes, sir.
sort this out. We are delaying all of our discussion on per diem, except it is my recommendation that we do pay Gwen for the conference she attended, because that was in the rules. And we will do that. I don't see as we have an option.
If it's in the rules, we don't have any discussion anyway, right? The rules are the rules. So I don't know for sure that they are, but I'm taking your word, and if they're the rules are the rules, so let's move on.
So yes,
So is that approved? Can I put it to bed? Can I let it go?
Please.
Yeah, I'd love to.
I think we've got other committees on there that we don't know about, the ag and the ones that you went to and requested, yes. And I think we have a process in this commission where we can appoint a representative to a MAC committee or commission. And we ought to have that discussion, but not at 9:05.
So the match bag and tourism, we're not going to discuss, because you asked me if I wanted to be on that. It is a committee you have to commit to. And yes, you can attend on Zoom. This is a committee that you have to commit to, and if you don't appear, you're off the committee. We are an agricultural and tourism-based county, so it could be valuable. But
Is there a deadline for that?
yeah, I need to, yeah.
I'd like to make a suggestion that perhaps we do table that particular issue, because there is an issue right now that I think we need to address. It's being discussed in the legislature. It has to do with attending virtual meetings. And so perhaps we could just table that.
That's not
section.
included in OMA. It's not included in those.
The open meeting.
No, not for some, not for that kind of thing.
Well, I will defer to.
Well,
We just discussed that yesterday.
we've taken care of the legislative action committee, the MAC committee. Does somebody want to make a motion on whether we want Gwen to be the representative to the Agriculture and Tourism Committee of MAC?
Do we want someone from Leelanau County to represent us on MAC Ag and Tourism?
Commissioner Lautner?
Possibly. So I guess the question is, those meetings are Zoom,
You can,
or
you
you
can
go.
mix it, you can mix it. It's cheaper for the county if I don't drive to each one of them.
So, and then
But
I
you have to
don't
make a
suggest that we put someone on that committee, any of us on it, that would drive to Lansing to those meetings every month and pay
They're not,
mileage.
they're
I
not,
Let's-
they're not in Lindsay.
Or
Gwen-
Baylor
Gwen-
or-
One person.
Commissioner Lautner, finish your thought, please.
Okay, so if you can attend those by Zoom, unless they fall, I don't know if there's even a policy on that for commissioners, but within a certain amount for mileage, perhaps maybe, but if you can attend them by Zoom, I don't think there's no problem with you attending them by Zoom. I mean, nobody's gonna object to that. You can do that now. I mean, if you get appointed to it, you can do that now.
So would you entertain a motion that we appoint a commissioner to be chosen to the MAC agricultural, whatever, I can't remember the rest of the committee.
Ag and tourism.
I'm running out of brain cells at this point, and that appointment be allowed for Zoom attendance only unless prior approval by the board.
That's your motion.
That's my motion.
Is there a second?
Support.
Any discussion?
I don't. When there's a, if someone's willing to do that, that would be fine. I don't think, for instance, the next meeting will be the first morning of a vacation of mine. It's a commitment for me to sit down in front of my computer and attend the meeting on Zoom. So I don't know if you, I don't know if you're including a per diem on that.
If you've been appointed as a representative of this board, you get a per diem. That's my
Not
understanding
at
of the
the
rules.
Zoom meeting. I don't believe we can by law at the Zoom meeting. That's why we were asking for some clarification.
We do that for family coordinating council.
I mean,
That's
logically,
the only way they meet.
well, I've tried to sort this out logically. What is the purpose of a per diem? The mileage is for the travel, the per diem is for the time. So
I agree, but
whether
I
you're
thought-
sitting in front of a computer or sitting at the meeting, you're still spending the time.
The chair rules that we're not going to resolve this.
Okay, right.
You willing to
Right.
pull your motion off the?
I will.
Willing to pull your motion,
Yeah.
Melinda?
Yes.
Sorry.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
Review financials?
Yep.
Yeah, so, I did see the Schaumburg drain, you mentioned earlier, I've seen those Schaumburg drain bills. There was one for $32,900, another for $17,400, but they were last year.
Yes. And Steve brought them to me and said because they're going to be wrapping up this year, he told GEI it was hold them until we're going to really nail this down. Let's get them submitted so we can finalize the lending and get going on this next drain district.
But we've wrapped up our 2022 already.
Jen, do you want to address that?
Well, we've got the same thing with that $50,000 bill from the textual drawings. It was on that list that wasn't paid. So it's not, I'm just saying, this is not the only time this is happening. I'm not justifying it, I'm just saying it does happen.
Okay,
Got a
but
bunch of
so
bills.
you're going to be able to get that right with the audit and still.
It won't go back to 2022.
Won't go back to
but it'll be
2022.
part of the Reimbursement process.
Right.
Correct.
It becomes part of the reimbursement process when we.
Well, and I understand that, but by now, this is last year, how do we verify those bills at this point? I guess it's Steve's job.
Yes, as drain commissioner, they're signed by him. He okays them and
Okay.
presents them for payment.
He says it was all, sure, okay. I have one more question on those. So it was, how do we ensure that the bills are turned in more timely in the future? Don't we have a policy that if they're not turned in quarterly, we know
That's travel.
Yeah, that's only
travel?
travel.
Yeah. We kind of killed that, so.
Well, we need to bring it back to like, I don't like us, we don't know where we stand. I mean, this is, 32,000 and 70,000, so we're,
Well, again, this gets wrapped into the drainage district when they go to get the financing and we'll be reimbursed for
I
this.
understand, I know, I guess my point is that this is, we have no choice but to pay it, but now we're months into it, that we find out we have no choice but to pay this months ago.
Mhm.
It really doesn't allow us to know where we sit financially if we don't know if we've got $100,000 worth of bills out there.
How about if we meet with Steve and we express his concerns?
That'd be wonderful. I appreciate it. That's all my concerns was finance, with, the claims, claims accounts.
Other questions on finances?
These GEI bills are in your update for the drain district. So I did point that out earlier. So that number is up through these.
Well, my concern was the dates.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean,
We do have that happen occasionally.
Anybody else? Thank you. We now have committee reports, recommendations, and resolutions. Anybody?
So the Northern Michigan Counties Association is very interesting and I think worthwhile. As I said, Dina Bosworth, who is our head of the legislative branch for MAC. Thank you. Goes over all of the issues. She's going over, she talked at length about what is happening in the budget. They are working hard for an increase in public health. They are talking about an increase in the earned income tax credit. The personal property tax exemption will go up to $280,000 this year for small businesses. Now that was put in 2 years ago. It didn't go into effect last year. It does this year. So that's a change that will benefit a lot of our small businesses, which is really helpful. The gravel issue doesn't look good. There's a worldwide shortage of sand. They need gravel to fix the roads, and they're fighting it. But it's really looking like they're going to give Eagle the ability to just mandate where they're going to mine the gravel, which is really a shame. They are working hard at revenue sharing. And it does look like right now it'll be a percentage of sales tax revenue. They are getting close on the budget, and there's still a lot of negotiating to be done. But the MAC people are working hard with our legislators. Chet Janik also did a presentation on what the organization he's with right now is doing for other counties, specifically about working to get hire new administrators. So he got some good experience in the last year hiring our new administrator, and he pretty much went over the whole process that we just went through as a commission to find you. So he made a presentation as well. There are about 25 counties represented there, so it's a very worthwhile meeting. They won't meet in June. So July will be the next one. I think it's worth going to, and I'm proud that Leelanau County will be represented by a commissioner.
Thank you for representing us there, and thank you for the report.
Finally.
Any other committee reports? We are now at our meeting. If we haven't worn you out and you still have any breath to breathe, public comment, welcome at this time. Bill?
Yeah. Sorry. There it is. Sorry. I was down to 6% energy, so I had to back off of everything. Hope my phone would work here. Bill Wiesner, Elmwood Township. And just like to say a little bit more about the handout I gave you. Down to the, actually, no, I wanted to look at this one first. This is one from last week, and it's called Dominion is Finished. And I just encourage you to go there if you haven't watched it already. Watch the video, maybe check on the transcript, and there's a lot of fraud there. Part of it is the SQL server, Microsoft, a third grader could do the switches in a minute. And that software, they don't even know it's there. So we can't look inside the black boxes, but that's a Dominion machine in Colorado, in Mesa, where Tina Peters was diligent enough to back up the computer so they couldn't delete the log files like they did everywhere else. But this handout I gave you just now, again, looking from the Rasmussen report, what the Democrats were saying, 40% say it's important to prevent election cheating. 50% say mail-in voting makes it easier to cheat. We look at it as a good thing. Oh, more people can vote. No, it's an avenue, and that's why it came out of COVID, and 7 million ballots being sent out to people unsolicited. And that's not a good thing. It's easier to cheat. The Democrats, 50% say so. And 50% of the Democrats say state and election officials are ignoring widespread evidence of election fraud. So let's get with it in Leelanau County and lead the way on this. This is not a matter of just letting this go. This is the biggest thing in this county is the election integrity. Going on to the backside of that, I'll go down to the bottom again, back to last week, Texas AG Attorney Ken Paxton, he stopped the fraud in Texas by filing 12 lawsuits to stop these ballots from being sent everywhere. And I forgot to mention it. Georgia in 2016 and Texas, Trump won both of those states by 9% in 2016. 2020, Texas survived because they didn't allow these ballots to be mailed out. Georgia said, go ahead and mail them out. Well, that's all the thing in Georgia. They had all that potential for fraud, according to Democrats too. And this little thing on the top there, if you go, kind of made it big enough, I think, votedatabase.com. I hope you'll write that down or have it on the handout there. And you go there and you'll find this handout by this one right here. Here's the first 20 pages of it. It's called Fingerprints of Fraud. Like you catch a criminal by doing their fingerprints and testing that. These are computer experts looking at what's transpired, looking at the 3 Mesa 1, 2, and 3 reports that show specifically that log files were deleted, 35 modems on board, and two like databases on the computer system transferring files, and they put some over and they kept some. And so that's all in this report. Fingerprints of Fraud. Jeff O'Donnell, he's got 40 years of experience. Pages 2 through 9, if you go there, you don't have that handout, but if you go there, they're listing 9 states and 120, I believe, counties in those 9 states where they showed fraud occurring in basically 80% of them showed anomalies that you wouldn't expect. Well, I'm way out of time here, or gonna be, but so he's got some great graphs. It's just 10 pages long, the executive summary. Take a look at that. It should be like a tossing a coin in a straight line, but there are all these curves that go up like this. The cheating is from the early voting.
5 minutes is up.
Cheating is from the early voting. Thank you.
Mr. Gauci?
we periodically experience government by insanity for 30 minutes tonight again. I can't believe that we can't wrestle these things to the ground and after 10 minutes say, well, we need to look at this and have it reviewed and come back with the right stuff and deal with the issues at hand. Everyone wants to get paid for everything they do. And my question is, what happened to run for office to do public service? We've attended over 3,000 county and township board meetings over the last 35 years. Nobody has paid us a penny. And we offer everything we can when we come. We find it intriguing when we see some of this continuous bickering and foolishness going on. So if you are not interested in public service, do not run for public office. We continued on about need, necessity, and justification from our first period. Most of these things that the county commissioners do is under color of law or fraud. There's an oddity in our county and most counties, or a peculiar habit. Commissioners initiate millages all by themselves. Because a handful of people comes to a county commission meetings and demands a millage or a new tax, creating another bureaucracy. In all of these that I'm going to mention, electors never lawfully petitioned the county to act on or establish any of the following. Again, these were self-initiated by the county commissioners. The Commission on Aging, the millage from hell. County electors never lawfully petitioned for it, but the commissioners did it anyway. Buying Veronica Valley, people never petitioned for Veronica Valley Park, but the commissioners did it anyway and didn't consider all the costs of ongoing costs as time went on. 2002, we had farmland preservation. The millionaires of Collins and Wellman and others wanted a tax. The commissioners said, sure, we'll put it on the ballot, but the people, electors, turned it down. Early childhood millage, less than 100 means-tested people, just like only 59 means-tested people were available for help on the Commission on Aging just 6 years ago. County electors did not lawfully petition for it either. Northwest Michigan Council of Governments. County commissioners established it in the 80s with one board, one county commissioner from each 10 county. 9 years ago, the governor gave the NEMCOG free money, our taxpayers' money, to reorganize itself so they became totally accountable with bennies and salaries second to none. Then we have the delinquent tax revolving fund. Back to the NEMCOG, the commissioners or electors. Commissioners did this without any lawful petition by the people. Delinquent tax revolving fund. An overspending piggy bank financed by overtaxed taxpayers rather than reducing taxes or giving money back. Commissioners almost always pee it away on stuff that costs way too much. Again, it's something the county electors never lawfully petitioned for. So I'm going back to the premise at 46.11 MCL. That's where your authority is to do. Over the years, township governments and particularly county governments with the new government of county commissioners have gone berserk. They have peed away money and money and money to no end, and you guys are continuing the same thing. Please do something about the accounting for the clerk loading decision made by a commission, your last commission, on May 11th, 2021. Please do us an accounting, otherwise you are unfit for public office. Thank you.
Thank you.
For public comment?
Yes, you may.
Do you want to go? Okay. Michelle Crocker, County Clerk. I've been here since 1981. I was appointed in May 1st of 1996 as the county clerk. I'm in my 7th term of office, and this is only my 2nd or 3rd time making public comment. I generally don't bite, but I'm picking up a little bit on the energy, I guess, tonight, and it's getting late and I'm getting tired. I don't live in Maricopa County. I do not live in Texas. I do not live in Georgia, but I've ran a lot of elections in Michigan, a lot of them. And all I'm hearing about is the 2020 election. Do you know how many elections I've had since then? I've had a lot. And I appreciate everyone's opinions and I appreciate everyone's thoughts. But one thing I do want to clear up, it's important. Ballots in Michigan are not randomly mailed to people. We must have a written request signed by the voter. Signatures are verified. They do not randomly go out. What does get mass mailed out by candidates, by political organizations, and everyone else under the sun are applications to vote. Totally different animal, totally legal. Ballots do not get mailed out. I don't like to be argumentative about this, but I think people need to understand that ballots in Michigan are not randomly mailed out without proper paperwork, proper signature checks. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Hello again, John Harbottle, Sutton's Bay. This won't take 5 minutes either this time. As I said last month, the risk of being redundant or repetitive. Having observed quite a few elections in the county, I can say with a lot of certainty there is no election irregularities, nonsense in the counting, the handling, or the machines that do so. As I said, anyone who thinks otherwise is wildly misinformed. Thanks.
Anybody else? Thank you, John. Any commissioner comment?
I just have one. We have our Memorial Day service down at the Veterans Memorial Plaza. Memorial Day at 10 o'clock.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments? Yes.
Thanks for all working together tonight, but I think we can do a little bit better.
Thank you.
Well, work on that. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, if there's no other commissioner comments, I wanted to make a commissioner comment. And I take responsibility of how tonight's meeting went, and I wasn't happy with it. On the per diem stuff, it was important to me, and I don't know that, and I brought forth 4 or 5 different ideas, and I think you're not supposed to try to fix problems that we don't have a problem. But I thought there was some confusion. I thought there was some inconsistency, and we know by what we were doing with the authorities that we were doing at least something wrong. And I thought it was important for us to have that discussion. I do apologize for the way that the discussion went. I also apologize for the way the meeting went, and I made some notes for me about what I want to see differently. And one is I want fewer late additions. And I want a second edition of our agenda so that when we get the agenda before our seat at night, that we don't go through adding 10 or 11 different things. It'll still be a draft agenda, but I think we can do better with that. And I'll work with our administrator to try that. And we also need to make sure that we all know what we're supposed to have at the meeting. We get different batches of it. We didn't have this 2% grant application tonight. So yes, Jim, we can do better. And thank you very much. And you heard me say I take responsibility for
I
that.
take part of that too.
I do, because we need snacks. Snacks. Let's get the snacks.
I hear you.
All right,
Snacks.
chocolate makes everything better.
Somebody's hungry.
I am now looking for a motion on
I think we have.
On snacks?
we have amendments. I'm looking for a motion on amendments and transfers.
Yes,
Well,
Did you want more education on them or?
I know.
Okay, I know. I hear you.
I just went through them and they all make sense to me. If anybody has any questions, I'll make a motion and move to the county. I would move the county board of commissioners approve amendment number 23-007, 23-008, 23-009, and 23-010.
Moved and seconded.
I
All those in support of the
was
motion
just
say
gonna
aye.
say if did anybody has to explain any of them or wants her to explain any of them, she is here to explain them.
Motion on the floor. All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion approved.
I would move that we, the county board, the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve fund transfer number 23-003.
All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 7-0.
Move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve of claims and accounts $221,570.04.
All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 7-0.
I would move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve post audit $2,512,288.06. Support.
All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
One more motion tonight.
Adjourn.
I did give you your updated sheet with the point broadband on it, 5-year project. And just a little more details on that, so you keep that on your radar, as well as the ARPA worksheet, so you know what you've committed to on ARPA so far.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh,